Okay, our next question for the candidates is what issues do you see of concern for the HOA that has prompted you to run for the board? Okay. We'll start with Mr. Thompson.
Well, issues is tough because he's got me down to a time limit here. There's the fundamental issue is just one of respect. So if there's a single takeaway from this, if the copious note takers are in the room, is that we get along and we respect the owners. Fundamentally, this whole organization needs to turn and recognize that the folks that pay for this whole enterprise need to be treated better than they're being treated right now. So everything else, I think, will fall from there. There are some things we need to fix that have been going on. Things that are complicated, but not so complicated that you can't understand them if people will just explain them to you. So I know it sounds shameless. I have a website where these issues, I've got a flyer, you can take it, but these issues are all outlined as I understand them. And what I've been saying from the very beginning, for the last year that I've been involved, I was a candidate in the previous election. I was the second highest vote getter on the owner's vote. Thank you. When the developer voted, I didn't win, but we're going to change that this year. The website explains and it provides the supporting documentation for the conclusions that I've reached. And what I've been saying for the last year is, tell me where I'm wrong. Here's the documents. Here's how I reached my conclusions. If I'm wrong, tell me. And I've been saying this to our current board of directors for the last year. So far, no one's told me that I'm wrong. And I would think that if the interests that are in our community, the developer interests in our community, knew that I was wrong about an issue, they would say it loud and proud. Some of you might have got a phone survey over the last couple of months where my name was mentioned in it. I'm not elected to anything here. I'm just an owner like you. And I asked, why was my name involved in this survey? Well, I didn't get a straight answer. I was told under the table to try to kind of wave me off. I'm making too much noise. I'm being an agitator. Try to intimidate, try to scare me away. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that this is where we are. So moving forward, we have some issues. We have the Parkway Workforce Agreement is an issue. Details are on the website. I only have a couple minutes. We need to take care of that. Probably the single biggest issue that I think should concern every single person in this room is the maintenance agreement for this Village Green Park. The details are on the website. The bottom line is this. For 9 years, the developer spent $250,000 of your money to pay their bill. That's outrageous. That's fundamental. That's a fundamental violation of what our board is supposed to be doing to protect us. But those things are in the past. I don't say you leave them in the past, because if we're owed money, I want the money. If this HOA is entitled to money for something, I want it. But moving forward, we have to turn the ship around. We can't stay focused on all the negative things. We can't stay focused on the past. We need to address it. We don't walk away from it. We address it. Moving forward, we fundamentally change how we interact with each other, meaning how the board interacts with the owner. That means a design review process that makes sense. That means eliminating fees for consultants. When you want to put a backyard in, if this HOA after 20 years doesn't know what a backyard needs to look like and you have to pay a consultant $150 an hour, we're doing something wrong. Why would we collect $50 from you for the privilege of reviewing your plans? That's not refundable. It's outrageous. It needs to stop. We use consultants for far too much in this community. You've got 58 full-time employees here, and we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on consultants. We can do better than that. We can be smarter than that. But it's going to require fundamental change in how the HOA views its relationship with the owners and how staff views its relationship with the owners. So we can change the attitudes, we can change the climate, the environment, where the staff realizes this is an owner-focused board that puts the interests of owners first. Anybody that's tried to come to a meeting, they have at 5 o'clock in the evening. I have to work to pay for the house to live in Serrano. I can't be here at 5 o'clock. So every board meeting I show up at, I have to take leave to come to a board meeting. They have design review committee meetings in the middle of the day. This isn't conducive to the way people live their lives here. And that's been a result of years and years of basic neglect. The developers controlled the board for so long. This is their office. This is the developer's office. So for them, a 1 o'clock meeting is no big deal. They just walk downstairs. You or I have to come from work. We can do better. So by refocusing the HOA towards the owners, by putting the interests of the owners first, by addressing things in the past that maybe were done improperly or illegally that we need to fix, taken together, I think those are the primary issues that we can use to make Serrano the kind of place that doesn't get a 1-star review. To make Serrano the kind of place where you hear all sorts of outrageous reviews and critiques from realtors that won't show people property here because they're afraid of the HOA. And worse yet, When I walk around, knock on doors, and I talk to folks like you, and they tell me they're afraid of the HOA. I can't tell you how many times I've heard folks tell me they're afraid of the HOA. We can do better.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Okay. Mr. Hammond.
Okay.
Once again, the question is, what issues do you see of concern for the HOA that has prompted you to run for the board?
You know, Eldorado Hills reminds me of Fairfield. And I used to walk every morning with a buddy of mine who was a professor at Solano College. And every morning we walked past this mini mart. And they had all the van pools out there. And they would get on the van going to Oakland, they get on the van going to San Francisco, they get on the van going to Sacramento, which my wife took. And I asked them, what do you guys know about Fairfield? They said nothing. So my question to you is, what do you know about up here? Everybody I meet up here works somewhere else. Do you really know what's happening up here? I think not. I know a lot of people, my neighbors don't know what's going on up here because they work in Sacramento, they work in Davis, this type of thing. You got to know what's going on in your town before you get involved. What about a nice community center here? Do you guys like that? Where you can meet people. I guarantee you, I don't know my neighbors. A lot of people don't know what's going on up here. We've got to fix that. We absolutely have to fix it. Otherwise, you have to, if you like it here, do something about it. Do something about it. If I ask you, what's going on in Eldorado Hills, you say, well, I'm not sure, because in the morning you're getting on the bus to go to Davis, or you're getting in your car to go down to Sacramento. You have to understand what's going on here. We've got to do something to help our people here. So like I mentioned, a nice community center. We have the resources to do that. Why don't we do that? That's one of the things I thought about. You want to meet people? Have that. We want to go to community center now. What do? We go to Folsom. I don't begrudge them. I honor them. I think that's great. But why do we have to go down there when we can stay here? Let's take care of our own. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Mr. Freiberg?
Well, I think that, these guys really hit on a lot of the issues that I feel strongly about. I think one of the things that got me motivated was sitting in here watching the board of directors vote on certain things. And Mr. Getz would usually sit down at the end of the table, and this end here was pretty much covered by the directors. And so anytime anything came up that was where Chuck was, or where Dean was trying to get a point across or anything, these guys would always be grumbling at him and telling him, pipe down and things like that. I thought that was totally disrespectful. And when it came time to vote, it would be more than likely Dean and Ed Grinnell over here, wanting to do something for the homeowners, and then it would be a no, no, no. That was so blatantly wrong that it's like, we really do need to get rid of some of these people that, well, the directors, these two directors work for Parker, and they're right next door, and they're on their payroll. So even though it's not supposed to be a conflict of interest, in my mind, I could never justify whether I could trust them or not because of the way they reacted and the way that they pretty much would guffaw people and things like that, and a lot of the votes would go the way of the director. So that's a big issue for me. I think the other issue is the way they treat people. They treat them like Mr. Thompson said, you're a renter, you're not an owner. And I personally have requested documentation from the HOA, and they will lag. Like, for example, I had sent a letter to the HOA regarding recording the HOA, and they just would never respond. So a lot of little issues where they tend to not pay much attention to the owners. There's a lot of things going on in the books, the fiduciary part of it, where they have categories on the books that are maybe miscellaneous, where you can't really tell what's happening because they've got these things all lumped together. A lot of secretive things going on. For example, the anonymous phone call for the anonymous survey that was going on, people were answering the phone, they would not, we would ask them who this survey, who's behind it, and they wouldn't tell us. They only wanted to speak to men. I don't know why they wouldn't want to speak to women. But if a woman happened to say, I don't have a husband, then all of a sudden you revealed some pretty private information. And so I wrote a letter to the HOA asking them who was behind this, because I kind of figured I knew who it was. And they never responded. We went to the meeting that particular week, and at the meeting, Serrano Associates came out with a little letter saying we were behind that. And so they handed out about 5 or 15 little handouts outside, and so I asked one of the directors, I asked one of the directors if that is supposed to notify all the rest of the people in Serrano. He said, no, it was just, I put it out there for you guys. And so I asked him, why did he put Mr. Thompson's name have his name in the, there you go. Why was his name in the survey? And then he refused to talk to me. Okay, so basically, this is the way we've been treated, and we're just sort of letting that happen. And I, for one, don't really like that, so that's my issue.
Okay, great, thank you.